Long Beach. It is Tuesday, August 29th, and I just came from the Long Beach Water Department building where there was a protest meeting to protest the 9% proposed increase. The meeting was held by the water commissioners, and the protest completely failed. But this won't be the last opportunity to watch the 9% increase go down in flames, because it still has to be passed by the Long Beach City Council at their meeting on September 5th. So in addition to encouraging you to call your city council member and tell them how you feel about the 9% increase, or to even show up on Tuesday, September 5th at the meeting and sign up to be a public speaker about it, or to email your city council person and tell them how you feel about it, I also want to give you some highlights from the meeting and show you where I think the municipality failed and where I think you, the Long Beach electorate, kind of failed. Didn't do what you were supposed to do either. So I'm going to start those highlights now.
Thank you. So this evening we received, and during the course of the protest period, which is now closed, we received a total of 272 protests, both verbal and written. 44 of those were mail-in letters, 218 were emails, and 10 were in-person comments this evening, protests this evening, none of which have been certified by the city clerk. But even assuming that all of these protests were certified by the city clerk, this number does not represent the majority of our ratepayers, which is about 45,001. And so therefore this protest is unsuccessful. Therefore, we've heard a little bit about the process. The proposed increase will be considered for final approval by the City Council at its meeting on September 5th. And if the City Council approves the proposed increase on September 5th, then the new rates adopted by this board on June 26th will take effect on October 1st, 2023.
Okay, so the first clip I want to show you actually is from the almost end of the meeting, in which the attorney for the Long Beach Water Department gives the official tally of the number of people who protested either by showing up tonight, by mailing a letter, or by emailing a letter. The number of people who protested was under 500. It was like between 300 and 400. The number of ratepayers in the city of Long Beach is 44,000. So if the protest was going to work, the majority of 44,000 would have had to protest by emailing or writing or showing up tonight. So it was a complete and utter failure. And that is on the electorate. That's not on the city of Long Beach. That's not on the Long Beach Water Department. That is completely on the electorate. Next door, I'm looking at you. I got a lot of comments on my Nextdoor post about the rate increase. Most of the comments were about how greedy city government is and how irresponsible the Long Beach Water Department uses their money. And yet, even though my face is on my Nextdoor, nobody at the meeting tonight came up to me and said, "Hey, Adriana, I recognize you from Nextdoor," because I doubt any of those people from Nextdoor were at the meeting. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't send a letter. In fact, I know one person commented that she'd already sent her protest letter, but most of them didn't even bother. And most of the electorate didn't even bother either. So either they were for the 9% increase, or they just didn't bother to participate as voters. And that's a problem. The next highlight I want to show you is of Commissioner Shannon saying something that really ended up pissing me off, to be honest. In this clip, you'll see Commissioner Shannon basically chastising the voters who didn't show up. What he says in the clip is basically, hey, this proposed rate increase was proposed a long time ago. And there were notices that were sent out to people telling them, come to these meetings and have your say on the proposed rate increase before we send it to City Council. And where were all of you? That's basically what he's saying. The thing about that is, those notices only go to rate payers. I live in a multi-dwelling unit, so the ratepayer is not me. It is the owners of the apartment building, which happens to be a company in Glendale. I can assure you that they are not sending me any of the notices that they get from the Long Beach Water Department. The percentage of renters in Long Beach is actually higher than the percentage of property owners in Long Beach who live in properties that they own. So the number of people who pay a water bill but are not rate payers with an account with the City of Long Beach Water Department is higher than the number of people who pay a water bill but are rate payers. So after the meeting, I went up to Commissioner Shannon and I said, "Hey, Commissioner Shannon, I didn't get any of those notices because I'm not the account holder. I'm not the ratepayer." And he very patronizingly said to me, "Yeah, that's a problem that's been going on for years, and hopefully one day we'll solve it." I'm not kidding. That's exactly what he said. After sitting in that meeting and saying he's been doing this for 10 years, what I wanted to say was, what the fuck have you been doing if you know it's a problem? But I didn't say that. It's ridiculous that only ratepayers get the notices about Long Beach Water Department meetings that are going to affect the bill they pay. Anybody who is paying for water should actually get that notice. So the lawyer lady said to me after the meeting that the way 218 is written into the California Constitution, the notices only go to the ratepayers. And if you wanted to change that, the section you would change is Section 13. Believe you me, I will be emailing Joshua Lowenthal, my assembly member, and Lena Gonzalez, my senator at the California in Sacramento, letting them know that I want Section 13 of 218 of the Constitution changed so that every resident in Long Beach, because they're all, or every adult resident, because they're paying for water some kind of way, even if it's in their rent, gets the notice, and not just the ratepayer whose name is on the account. And I encourage you to do the same. Contact your state representatives and let them know you want that changed.
I just have a couple of very brief comments to make. We're not here to make speeches, but one thing I'd like to make clear is, and I don't vouch for the wisdom of this Prop 218 scenario. It's very difficult for the public to understand. We have already made a decision. Okay. Understand that. Please understand that. We're not playing games with you. We've already made a decision. That decision is to go with a 9% raise. And that decision was reached after many, many meetings at which you had the ability to come and to dispute and make any comments you might wish to make. That's where you should make your complaints. And try to remember that next year, because effectively, it's going to be very, very difficult to override our decision. The numbers, I don't have the exact numbers, but those numbers would be very, very difficult to overcome. So remember that next year. The second thing, and I want to really emphasize this, is every year I sit through here, this is my 10th year.
So those are basically the two highlights I wanted to give you. I encourage you to watch the whole meeting. It was 29 minutes long, and it's always important to see how the ins and outs of city government is functioning. But I strongly encourage you to contact your city council member and let them know how you feel about the 9% increase. And when I say let them know how you feel, as I made clear in my public comments, which I encourage you to watch, I'm not against the increase per se. I'm against the increase when it is not accompanied by crackdowns on landlords who, through their actions, cause their tenants to waste water. Hope to see you all at the city council meeting on Tuesday, or at least hope to hear comments from you about how you contacted your city council member and told them how you thought they should vote regarding the water 9% increase.
Good evening, Water Commissioners. My name is Adriana Langston, and I dwell in a 126-unit Elevate Long Beach apartment complex at 90802. With climate catastrophe beginning to manifest worldwide, I understand the need for municipal infrastructure to be updated to capture more water from more frequent once every 100-year storms and to reserve more water from more frequent once every 100-year droughts. I understand that these updates need to be funded. My protest is not against the 9% increase per se. My protest is against the fact that the 9% increase is not being accompanied by efforts to force property owners to stop wasting water. I used the watercommission@longbeach.org email address to send my protest letter where I detailed and documented my own efforts to solicit every single form of government and or regulatory agency I could bring to bear pressure on the owners of Elevate Long Beach Apartments to address an issue that is causing all 126 units to waste water every single day due to inconsistent hot water. In the letter I sent you, I linked to videos of me standing by faucets in my unit, pointing a laser thermometer at the water coming out of the tap when the faucet was turned all the way to hot, and waiting sometimes over 5 minutes for the water to get over 100 degrees, never reaching 120. Each leasee gets a bill separate from the rent. That includes a prorated charge for all the water used by the building divided by 126 units. So I am paying for the gallons of water that go down the sink while I wait for the water to get hot enough to kill germs when I wash my hands. My own city councilwoman is a resident in my building, and she and her office met with residents to map out a strategy for how to get this issue addressed as she faces the same hot water problems in her own unit. Her office advised me to contact code enforcement. I and 2 other tenants filed a complaint with code enforcement. Inspectors were sent to my unit but could not write a violation because they did not personally witness the problem on the date and time that they came. Supervisor Manuel Rivas told me that unless it happened right when the inspector was there was nothing code enforcement could do. I communicated with the head of the water department, Chris Garner, asking if there was a process for filing a water waste complaint against Elevate based on the gallons upon gallons of water being going down the drain as tenants wait for the water to get hot. He said that he hoped in the future municipalities would give water departments the regulatory power to sanction multi-dwelling units that are wasting water in a way he admitted Elevate was, but for now that was not the case. I wrote to the actual company that owns but does not manage the building. I got a letter back from the law office that represents the company telling me that the problem is fixed. The videos to which I link in my email to you, Water Commissioner, show that this is not true. If I were a property owner rather than a renter, I could install an electricity zapper right at each sink that would instantly heat the water before it comes out of the tap. As a renter, I can make no such modifications. I could rip out all of the landscaping and replace it with a rock garden or native plants to offset the water loss from the sinks. As a renter, I have no control over landscaping. Water Commissioners, I hope from my protest letter that I truly hope you read in full and look at the documentation that goes along with it, you can understand how any increase in the water bill will fall more heavily on renters since they have way less control over water waste. That's why I cannot support this 9% increase until or unless it is accompanied by a written into policy commitment by the water department to crack down on landlords who keep their properties in such a way that it forces their tenants to waste water for which the tenants are paying. Thank you.